Stephen Kinnock, thanks so much for talking to us today. I want to start with, we'll move on to your brief health in a moment, but by the kind of global state of affairs that we've obviously been talking about. Prime Minister talking about global headwinds, the Health Secretary talking about an extremely turbulent backdrop. What's your assessment of the current backdrop?
It is very turbulent. Nobody benefits from a trade war. We live in an incredibly deeply integrated global economy with very integrated supply chains and hugely interdependent commercial relationships. So nobody benefits from a trade war. We are seeing a Prime Minister who's really showing leadership. He is engaging with Donald Trump and seeking to negotiate the best possible deal that we can in terms of our economic prosperity. He's also rebuilding all the bridges that were burned by previous Conservative governments in terms of our relationship with the European Union. And we're also developing an industrial strategy to help Britain stand firmly on its own 2 feet, investing in our own industries, boosting domestic demand, investing in skills, in infrastructure, rebuilding our manufacturing sector. So I think the combination of those 3 things is going to help us to weather the storm, but we certainly are in a storm.
I mean, you talk about a storm, but it feels like ministers are at pains to say the words Donald Trump.
Well, look, you know, the United States is the most powerful economy in the world. And when the President of the United States makes radical changes to the way that that country trades, it's going to have a big knock-on impact right across the globe. Whether you're China or the United Kingdom, it's going to have an impact.
Do you think his tariffs plan is going to plan?
I think that he has clearly taken a view about what needs to change in terms of America's trading relationships. We have seen a massive impact in terms of the stock exchange. I think something like $9 trillion wiped off the value of stock exchanges around the world. I mean, that is a big hit. I think we're clear that nobody benefits from a trade war, but it is the sovereign right of the President of the United States to make policy about his country's trading arrangements. It is now our job to respond to that, to stand up for the British national interest, to secure the best possible deal, to rebuild bridges with the European Union, and to develop our own industrial strategy. And that is what we're seeing with the leadership of this Prime Minister moving forward.
Rachel Reeves says, we've got your backs. What do you think she means by that?
I think she means that British workers are being buffeted by the winds of change. I mean, if you go back to the financial crash, you look at the massive impact of Brexit, now what's happening with Trump,
COVID. How can she have people's backs when there's not enough money to go around?
That is really about developing this industrial strategy. It is about saying, look, we've got a strong services sector, but there is a real problem for our manufacturing sector, which has decreased for decades in terms of its percentage share of GDP. We've got to invest in our manufacturing sector, start to rebuild it so that we can stand more firmly on our own 2 feet.
But seriously, though, where are you going to get that money from?
Well, I think there's growth in the economy. That is what we need to see moving
Trump's
forward.
tariffs look like they're going to have a bit of an impact on growth.
Yeah, it's not only about the money, though. It's also about the policies. I mean, look at what we've done with planning reform, and the OBR marked the impact of our planning reform as the biggest policy-related impact on growth, positive impact on growth that they've seen. So I think it's about unleashing the green energy and the manufacturing opportunities around that. My constituency sees a huge opportunity in the Celtic Sea for floating offshore wind, which could create upwards of 5,000 to 7,000 jobs.
I get that, but these things aren't free, and I guess people want you to just be straight with them, that there are going to be difficult decisions ahead. We're entering the unknown. This is going to be difficult.
Of course. I mean, to govern is to choose. And when you are looking at a very turbulent global situation, you've got to be able to react and be quick on your feet. But I would also say that it's about partnership with the private sector. It's not just about coming back to government all the time and saying, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? We are working in partnership with the private sector to develop offshore and onshore wind, to develop solar. We've seen the greater flexibility the Prime Minister's given to the automotive sector in the announcements that were made yesterday. So we're responding to the global picture, but we're also not panicking.
OK, well, related to all this is British Steel. You've been a vocal advocate of British Steel. Of course, the old steel plant at Port Talbot is in your constituency. Is this a make or break week for steel making in Scunthorpe?
Well, I think that the government is engaged in negotiations with Xingye, the Chinese company that owns Scunthorpe. We have seen in Port Talbot a transition. We've moved away from blast furnace technology into electric arc furnace technology. I'm really pleased to say that we're going to see spades in the ground on that project. In the summer, it's going to build one of the biggest electric arc furnaces in the world. It has been a challenging time, but there are real opportunities with the construction of the electric arc furnace and then moving forward into making the kind of steel that the market wants to buy. But for Scunthorpe, that clearly is a sensitive negotiation that's going on between the unions, led by Community Union, the Steelworkers Union, and the British government and Xingye. And I am hopeful that Xingye will see what has been delivered by this Labour government in Port Talbot and see that there are opportunities to move in terms of the steel that they make. But it has to be a bridge to the future, not a cliff edge. And that means looking at the proposals to keep the blast furnaces going for a period of time whilst in parallel investing in the construction of electric arc furnaces. That is the right way to go in Scunthorpe, and I hope that Xingye will engage constructively with our proposals.
Is nationalisation of British Steel on the table?
There are no plans to nationalise. I think it's much better for a steel plant in a highly competitive, fast-moving environment to be managed by experts in managing the steel industry and in managing the private sector. I don't think civil servants in Whitehall are best placed to make decisions about the corporate, the competitiveness of a corporation like a steel plant. It's a particular business that requires a lot of expertise and experience, and I'm not convinced that that expertise and experience exists in Whitehall.
Interesting, thank you. So we're rattling through, because I know you don't have that much time.
Sure.
I want to ask you about your brief, healthcare. We're looking at big job losses as part of reform. Is the Treasury going to fund those job losses?
Well, one thing that is not job losses is the announcement we've made today about 1,500 new GPs. When we came into office...
OK, we'll come on to that in a minute, but first, can we just answer the question?
We're coming forward with a reform plan that's partly about the abolition of NHS England and merging it into the Department for Health and Social Care. There will be some restructuring as a result of that, and there will be funds being made available to support with voluntary redundancy of people in the civil service and in the NHS England setup as a result of that. And of course, we are bringing forward a workforce plan in the summer that will look at the whole picture and will say, where does our NHS and care system need to be in 2035? We've got an ambitious 10-year plan.
And lastly, sorry it's taken me a long time to get to what you want to talk about today. Tell me a little bit about how many GPs you're recruiting, because there's been a bit of a mismatch in terms of the number of GPs. BMA says only 180 full-time posts.
They can't be saying that. I think they may be saying...
Sorry, not 180, 850.
Yes, 850, yeah. So look, when we came into office in July, we inherited this crazy situation where there was quite a healthy pipeline of newly qualified GPs coming through their training, but the practices were actually blocked from hiring them because the previous government, in his wisdom, said that there was a hiring scheme, but it could only be for non-GPs, so practice nurses, physician associates, etc. We immediately bust that red tape. We said, absolutely, this should be about hiring GPs. We reprioritised budgets across my portfolio, found 82 million for this and set them a target. We said by the 1st of April, we want to see 1,000 new GPs. I am delighted that today we've smashed that target, 1,500 new GPs. They are going to be coming in and helping to end the 8 a.m. scramble, bringing back the family doctor. There's still a long way to go, but I think this is a major step in the right direction in terms of improving access for patients and the outcomes that they get in terms of their own health. So a lot more work to do, but this is absolutely a big step in the right direction.
OK, Stephen Kinnock, thanks so much for talking to us on the Politics Hub this evening.
Thanks very much.